Hi, everybody. Master Toby Milroy here again, publisher for Martial Arts World News Magazine. And thanks so much for watching Martial Arts Business Innovations. It really does help us out a lot if you click like and subscribe and maybe even hit the bell notification icon on your screen right now. It does help sort of goose the YouTube and the Facebook algorithm and help this video reach more school operators who we might be able to help. So please go ahead and like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Hit the notification bell so that you get notified anytime we post new content. We're really working hard to speak with some of the most successful school operators in the world and bring you some of the biggest innovations in running your martial arts business. So thanks so much. Hit the notification and bell icon and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Welcome to Martial Arts Industry Innovations, presented by Martial Arts World News Magazine. Here, you'll get the latest news and information about the martial arts industry and discover the latest tools, tactics, innovations, business systems, teaching strategies, and much more to help you grow your school, career, or martial arts business. You'll also hear from some of the most successful school owners, innovators, instructors, industry influencers, and thought leaders in the world, sharing proven strategies and solutions to take your martial arts school or business to new heights. Join our mission at Martial Arts World News Magazine to raise the standards of martial arts business professionalism throughout the world.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm glad we took some time out of your schedule today to kind of work on your business rather than just working in your business. As some miracle of happenstance, all the technical stuff is actually working. So I think all of our audiences are with us. All of our people from Martial Arts World News Magazine are here. Our Atlas Martial Arts software subscribers and our AMS clients all have access now. So thank God everything worked. Today we're speaking with one of our very favorite guests, Grandmaster Bill Clark. Thanks so much for taking some time with us today. We're talking about a few of the events that Master Clark is working on right now, Grandmaster Clark is working on right now, and also his new book, Attitude the Warrior Way, which I had the chance to get through over the last day or so. And this is now required reading for all the students in the schools and all the staff. So I'm forcing the guys downstairs at AMS Master Clark through the book right now. So I'll let you know in a couple of days, what kind of impact we have down there. But thanks so much for taking the time with us. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You actually used it exactly like it's intended. It's a workbook, not a read book. It's a workbook, and that's how I designed it. So.
Listen. Workbook, right? So that was one of my takeaways was you've got some. So anybody, I've got the link, by the way, to the Amazon link to the book in the description, so everybody can take a look at that. And by the way, we do have comments today, so we can watch the comment feed. If anybody doesn't have any questions live or any thoughts or anything like that, you feel free to share it in the comment section over there. I'll keep my eye on that as we go through our time today. But that was one of my takeaways was, first of all, an easy read. It's narrated really well, like it's really well written, right? And it is very much in a few areas in sort of workbook format. So I can imagine, this being sort of a student resource as well.
Yes.
Let's start at the beginning. So what kind of inspired you to build the book and get this out there?
Well, a long time ago. It started with 5 principles. In 1976, I decided to live by 5 principles. And the missing element I always thought in my staff was if they don't have the right attitude, there's nothing I can do to teach them to make them better. So I started figuring out ways, different things that would help them. The first 3 chapters are the first things I worked on. If you remember the first 3 chapters, one is, and I decided to be happy no matter what. And that's been an overriding number 1 for me in my principles. So that became the number 1 chapter in my book on attitude. Number 2 is have a great morning routine. I have a great morning routine. And then get rid of all negativity in your life. So those first 3 chapters are kind of if you really want to have a great attitude, first rate yourself. Most people are afraid to do that. So I just started rating my instructors to see if I could let them know, I know you think you have a great attitude. Here's what I see. Here's how the other people rated you on staff. So with your staff, you can say, okay, you rated yourself. Now let me have somebody else rate you in that same areas. And now when you compare, especially husband and wife, you might find out you're in the same book, but different pages, So It started like that. How can I improve my staff? And not starting with the kicking and punching or the sales ability. Start with their attitude. If you can fix their attitude, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, there's actually a quote, not a quote, but you make a statement in here. One of my hiring principles is always, to me, three things: attitude, aptitude, and motivation, right?
Right.
And you say, I won't get the quote exactly right, but attitude by far is the largest indicator, right? How do you vet that out when you're meeting folks, initially?
Usually when I hire somebody, I've known them from quite a while, and I try not to make a hire on people that aren't smiling, engaging, making eye contact. Some of it's kind of a personal body language and rapport building beforehand. If I can build rapport with them and they can build rapport with me, we're starting at a good place. But I think everybody who has a desire, they just don't know they have a bad attitude. It's like somebody said, "Are you happy?" And they'll say, "Yeah." So can you let your face know? Just smile. Because some people don't know that they actually look mad. They're not mad. They'll say, "No, I'm happy," but they don't look happy. So that's the signal they send out. So I think if you're willing to rate yourself and say, "I could improve here," but I ask my people to pick out of the rating system, what's your best one? Let's work on that first, because everybody likes to work on their skills rather than their bad things. So that's kind of what I do. How can we get this from an 8 to a 10? And let's pick some strategies.
I like that. Best first. That's a good idea. That's a good takeaway. One of the things I do with the team here is I have them, similarly as you're describing, kind of rate each other, especially with like leadership skills and things like that. Like how good are they on a team, and is this someone I would like to go into battle with? This kind of stuff. And then I have them rate me too.
Right.
And I want them to be honest. They don't sign them. They don't. You know what I mean? I want it to be totally anonymous. I want to know what they really think. I like it a lot. I like starting with the high ones first. That's an interesting idea. I like it. Interesting.
That's for improvement, because I'm trying to get everything better, not just recognize where we are. Because truthfully, the guy with the worst attitude has no idea. He thinks he's okay.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't fix it. They don't know they can.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned in the book, it's easy. It's always easy to point at the other guy, right? Like every martial arts school operator you've ever worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all know the instructor that has a bad attitude, but we don't ever think it's us.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? What are the odds of that? Interesting. And you did talk a fair bit about setting up your day for success. So I think that there's huge components there for people, especially as inundated as we are with things like social media and news feeds and all of this stuff. Where would you advise somebody to expand on that? Or, what would you think about that?
I would say every single day, start with the right morning routine. I mean, in our master's training program for our masters, the number one part of it is the 5 elements, the 5 things you have to do in the morning before you leave the house. That morning routine sets you up for success all day long. Or you're waiting around to find out what happens to determine whether you're happy and positive or not. So I think you can start off with an intention. Your intention can be your destination if you do it right, but you can't just say, okay, let's just walk out the door and see what happens. You got to start with, today's going to be a great day. I feel good. I feel great. I feel fantastic. Another one in there is rebrand yourself. Like when you tell people, how are you today? And some of them say, I'm okay, or I've been better. I'm a little bit sick. I'm not like that. I think since 1976, I've been fantastic. And if you ask me how I am, that's how I am. And I start the day off like that. And no matter what happens, I'm still going to find a way to be happy inside the situation, even in undesirable situations. It's just a decision. That first one, the first principle I try to live by is that I will be happy no matter what.
I want to loop back to this in a little while, by the way, because there's an interesting anecdote. I think that's important. You talk a fair bit about choosing to surround yourself with the right people in the right environment, right? Negative versus positive, etc. This can be difficult for people. Some people have families that might be a negative influence, or team members, whatever. Obviously, it's an important factor in your view. How do you deal with the sticky situations? How do you get yourself there?
I think it's more difficult if it's in your family, but I think you limit your exposure to them in situations where they can vent. An awful lot of people want to tell their misery. What do they say? Misery loves company. I just don't want to listen, and I never want to agree with their misery. And I also don't want to be a spreader in misery. You won't see me telling everything that's wrong with me or trying to express that, because I'm listening as I'm talking also. So I don't want to be a negative spreader, nor when you tell me something negative, I don't want to talk negative back. I don't want to say, yeah, you're right, they shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to be in the middle of gossip. So I'm going to eliminate myself, if possible, from all of those situations or encourage them to get better. It'd be nice if a positive attitude was as catching as a negative attitude is, but it's not. Depression really affects everybody, all the people around you, your family, and everything else. If you find yourself in a bad attitude, I'd say go to the back of the book and start training to get out of that, because you're affecting your kids, your staff, and everything else. Sometimes we don't have enough money and that affects our attitude, but that's not really, you don't have to have a lot of money to have a positive attitude. That's a decision. And the better your attitude is, the more wealthy you are, even if you don't have money.
Yeah. The realization that this is a decision, I think, is a huge factor for people, right? The whole neurolinguistic programming or whatever it is, this internal locus of control, people, it's much easier to blame somebody else. It's much easier to point at the other guy. It's much easier to point at the, right, social structure or whatever it is. Jeff Smith, our mutual buddy Jeff Smith, right, always says, whenever you're pointing at someone else, there are 3 more fingers pointing back at you, right? I think it's pretty good, right? That's a pretty good way to think about the world. Pretty important. So it, obviously, we all teach in martial arts the importance of setting goals and setting inspiring goals in our martial arts career. And then we almost all forget about that, in our business life and in our family life. And you hit that nail pretty hard in the book. Obviously, why do you think that's so important, and where would you guide somebody on that?
I think when you're going to set goals, the first thing is you got to have personal goals. If you work on yourself as much as you do on your business will get real good. So I think the first goals you have to have is self-improvement. That's why I'm constantly writing and then reading what I've written, seeing if I'm right. I'm constantly teaching, because if I don't improve in every area of my life, there's no possible way for my staff or my instructors or my business partners to get better. So if I'm constantly trying to improve, that's the first goal I have. After that, I kind of watch, and everything around me will creep up, and anything moving, I'll try to accelerate. If upgrades are moving, or if new students are moving, or students are doing better, I'll try to push on that area. Whatever area is working, that's the area I'll push in. So I think my attitude is find what's right and push it.
That's interesting. Hard to fix the losers, right? There's like a franchise business.
If you focus on it, my belief is you get more of what you focus on.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I think that dovetails into you discuss a fair amount on like positive self-talk and like what your own neurology is doing, based on your own language and behaviors. Huge topic that I loved. I'm really super interested in. I've read a lot about. I think it's super fascinating. You talk a little bit about how deeply those neurons drill grooves in your head and how hard it is to break that. What's sort of the path you would guide somebody on?
Well, I do as much study as possible on meditation, guided meditation by myself or guided by somebody else. I do an awful lot of I am statements. I know statements. I understand statements. I love statements. I talk as if it's already happened. I don't talk like let me be good some other day, or let me be in shape a year from now. I do I am statements as if it's already happened today. And so my self-talk is so good that no matter what happens, I'm already in a great frame of mind. My self-talk is I don't want to listen to somebody else about me. And what other people think about me is none of my business. I really don't consider myself with that. So my self-talk, and then what I say about other people. Because you get around someone who's talking about somebody else, when you're not there, they're talking about you. That's the biggest problem. When you're not there, they're talking about you, I guarantee you. So I'm not engaged in gossip or negativity in any possible way. I got to be careful with the election, because sometimes that makes me happy to talk about what I believe, but I'm not trying to cause too much controversy. But negativity, I avoid at all cost.
Yeah, I think a lot of us carry. I think almost all of us, right? We all have trauma from our childhood or from our adolescence or whatever, whether they're small or large, and that can really. I know I have that bone in me. I know it. I can hear my father's voice, right, occasionally, and I'm like, oh no, this is not. I know this is wrong. I know I need to break out of this. How do you break out of that when you get into those grooves? How do you break out of that pattern?
Here's the deal. I'll never be this young again. So what's behind me at 77 years old doesn't matter. I'm like an Italian race car driver. Throw away the rearview mirror. What's behind me? I don't care. and I've got to go forward. I'm more worried about what I can do today than what's going to happen tomorrow or what happened yesterday. So I can only deal, what can I do right now? What can I do today? So, I mean, that's the whole thing. If you get focused on the present, everything works out. If you're too much worried about the future, it's all kind of problems. And if you're worried about what happened in the past, it's so much negativity. I don't carry it with me. I can get over everything fairly fast. But that's a choice.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to dwell in their misery and then share it with other people. I try to get my people out of that. I don't like to hear them gossip about each other. I don't like to hear them talking down about each other. If we can lift each other up, the staff is really strong.
You know, I just had this exact conversation yesterday with a team member here, one of the team leaders here, and we're having a bit of a struggle with someone on the team, and my gut analysis was, well, this sounds a lot to me just like a martial arts instructor standing in a classroom, and you've got one of the kids kind of spinning in circles and not paying attention. You have two choices. You can either yell, punish, dismiss, whatever that, or you can choose to try to make it better today. You can try to get him to focus for one more minute today than he did yesterday. Which are you going to choose? Which one moves you closer to your objective, right? I mean, I think it's the same thing. I think it's exactly what you're saying. So this, to me, it sounds like it dovetails into you describe how to reframe negative situations. Maybe this affects people as well. Are there tactics to that you like to deploy, or how would you describe that to folks?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. One is there's a few things that affect people positively: the right kind of music, the right kind of movement, and the fact that you don't look for the problem but find 3 solutions and pick one. No matter what the problem is, I don't focus on that. Like if the problem is this month not enough solution, what 3 ways can I implement easily in my staff?
Oh, no.
And then pick one. I don't know if I disappeared or you disappeared. Did you get Rhonda?
Something has gone awry, ladies and gentlemen. I think Master Clark.
You may have lost everything, sir.
Is that it?
Somehow I can still see you, sir, but your audio is gone.
There you go.
Now it's back. Okay. I have no idea what just happened there, but we'll pretend that didn't happen.
I don't know.
We were reframing negative situations, by the way.
Yes, sir. But I mean, I think that every single, it's not now anything that happens. It's not right yet. It's just not right yet. It's not that it's permanently broke. So I'm saying, and my staff comes to me with any problem at all, whether it's a personal problem or whether it's a business problem. I say, look, I don't want to know the problem. You bring me 3 solutions unless you and I choose one, and let's work on that. And that includes my family when something's wrong with one of my grandkids or something's wrong or they need money. I mean, let's bring me 3 solutions and let's you and I together choose one and let's go to work on that. Because as soon as you start working on the solution, the problem disappears, whether that solution works or not. And if it doesn't, I've always got 2 more to go to. So every problem, whether it's your health, whether you got an injury, whether it's you're not doing well in competition, every challenge has at least 2 or 3 solutions. Pick 3, choose one, circle it, write a plan and attack it, and do it today. Do something today about the solution and forget about the problem, because the solution is the answer to the problem. That's all. Don't think about the problem anymore, what caused it, what you could have done better. Most guys think about that in their relationships all the time. They're worried about what they could have done better. None of that matters. What are you going to do now going forward? I can't fix the past. No possible way. But I can fix today by taking action.
Yeah, I love it. Kind of a crazy tangent. A mentor of mine a long time ago in the casino industry, his name was Izzy Falcone. He was the president of operations for Bally's for like 20 years. And he had this big picture in his office. He's a Cuban immigrant, a very religious man. And he has this picture of Jesus's hands, right? In this very cool painting. And anyone who would come into his office with a complaint or a problem, I'm leading into complaints, right? Anything with a complaint or a problem, he would point at the picture. And in the painting, Jesus had both of his hands. He had the world and the cosmos, right? And it was, you have to have both hands full when you come to me. One could have a problem in it, but the other one better have a solution, right? Brilliant, right? Brilliant way to see the world, I think. I love it. So Yeah, that's a human issue. All right, so that's a human problem. You talk a little bit about, so breaking out of these sort of negative spirals. You've got a daily routine, you've got meditation, you've got music, you've got physical activity. All these things are useful tools to help with this, right? You talk a little bit about also finding joy in small pleasures. Maybe it doesn't have to be the big thing, but these small things make a big impact. How would you point someone at this?
I will say this: in our master's training, we have one ritual you have to do. We have a 99-day Dare to Be Great, Train to Be Extraordinary program. It's called Mastership. It starts every January and ends on Earth Day every year. But in that, every single day, we've got to find something glorious that we think is glorious. Now, sometimes in the winter, the fact that you have hot water in the shower is the glorious thing right now. Sometimes when I look out the window and the sun came up, and when you start finding the great little things in life, when you write them down and commit them to paper, don't type them in, don't put them on Facebook. When you write it down in the book, and at the end of 99 days, you've got 99 glorious things. If you continue that forever and you become a great finder, sometimes it's a cardinal out your window at your bird feeder. If you'll recognize the glory in your life, you will never be depressed. That's one of the things I use, and I force it on the master's training. The only thing I check when they bring me their book back to see if they're going to qualify for mastership is the number of glorious things they found. Because if you become a good finder in life, you'll become a good finder in your own life. And it's very easy to be successful. But you must be a good finder. And finding glorious things, like this morning I wrote, our training is over till January, but this morning I wrote in my book was the sunrise today. And I took a picture. I didn't post it yet, but I took a picture of it. And I wrote it. And sometimes it's the same thing over and over. Because a lot of times we take stuff for granted, like your grandchild. She comes in every day and hugs me when she comes to school. Every single day, I never forget how glorious that is. Every single sunrise, and I write it down. So, I mean, sometimes great things happen every day, but we take them so much for granted. They don't seem so glorious anymore, but they are.
There are two kinds of people in the world, the learned and the learner. The learned are done learning and cannot see any more to gain. The learner continues to learn and grows exponentially. Martial Arts Business Institute is a place where learners come to grow.
If you're a martial arts school owner who'd love to double or triple your revenue, add 100 or more new students to your school, don't miss your chance. This is the biggest opportunity. Join us now.
Hello, I'm Jan Lappin from Middleburg Martial Arts, and we have been with the group for many years. It's been wonderful. It's helped us so much. I think when we originally started, we were in the 40s. We're in the 70s now. We're looking at doing $1 million this year. And the best part of it all for me is we're doing this while we're helping people.
Hi there, Stephen Oliver here. I hope you found valuable the success story you've been watching of one of our top members. I'd like to share with you a bunch of more information about how you can grow your school. We have a special free report, 7 things that school owners do to shoot themselves in the foot. I welcome you to click the link here below or call my office now. You can call Bob Dunn at 720-256-0208.
Check out the latest issue of Martial Arts World News Magazine, the industry trade journal for martial arts school owners and instructors at mawnews.com. And now, back to our show.
Yeah, you tell a story in the book about a woman who had an empty bag of potato chips at her desk in her office, and inside the bag there are these little slips of paper that have like kind of grateful or positive statements. And if anybody needs a mental snack, they can go grab one of these things. Right? That's genius, right? So I think where you're getting here is what I think we all know when you really look into this topic. You have the ability to reprogram your brain. You have the ability to influence your neurology. In fact, you're the only thing that influences your neurology. You're doing it every day. What you're describing, I think the two kind of cores here for me is you either decide to be in control of that influence, and the fact that everything that you input is now having an impact on that, right? So, super useful, I think.
It all matters. It all matters. Every word, every thought, every vision. Every thought you have, everything matters. Some people discount it, but everything matters. But you can also affect the people around you, not just yourself. Your own attitude really affects your family life, whether you realize it or not.
Well, I mean, every martial arts instructor, right? You're influencing 300, 400, 200 students, 50 students, 10 students, plus their families, right? So your ripple effect is gigantic. You better be in control of this stuff, right?
So,
Well, I guess you're doing it with your instructors, yeah. You hit a topic I think also that is, for me, like everybody has their own kind of motivators, right? And for some reason, one of my massive motivators is just like learning something new, like discovering something new, right? So in the mornings, I do while I'm in the shower, I've got a podcast playing or something I can learn, where I can learn something new. And you talk about the value of being curious. And how have you seen that impact instructors and staff and people in your life?
I think that you'll see that in people. Do they have a willingness to learn? And that really demonstrates the curiosity that helps me in my business. If they're not willing to learn, they don't have the curiosity about the possibilities in life, then they don't do well. I'm looking for people that really do have that curiosity. How can I do better? How can I teach better? How can I perform better? I mean, how can I live longer? I mean, so I'm at this age, I'm looking into all those longevity things, reading everything, taking everything, doing whatever I can do. So I do want to find out, how am I going to perform at 120? I've already scheduled a seminar for Wednesday, September 11th, 2047, how to live to be 100 years old. So I already know what's coming up. But I mean, you've got to have that whole curiosity about, how am I going to live? I got to make sure I'm in good health that day. That's a long time. That's 100 years. But I think with the way things are now, if people will not give up and just get out and go for it, they'll do better. That's why I'm still working. I don't need to work. I love to work. I'm always wondering what's going to happen. I love to give talks like this. I can't wait to hear what the hell I'm going to say.
Well, I mean, I think George Burns, right? Didn't George Burns have a gig booked for his 100th birthday? And he's like, I can't die now. I'm booked, right?
I think he made it 101 or something.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. He had something to shoot for. Yeah. I think the curiosity factor is huge. I think from a motivation standpoint too, like I just feel that human beings are not designed to be in stasis. We're designed to be moving forward. You just can't, I think you can't stand still, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm seeking information all the time, but about things I'm interested in. I'm not studying things I don't have an interest in. I find something I like, and I may go down that rabbit hole for a long time.
Yeah, you don't even want to get me on UFOs. Yeah, interesting enough. You mentioned something also, by the way, that really resonated with me, and it's something that I had instituted here with the teams a few years ago. We do morning huddles and things like that, and we get everybody together and talk about things that happen and things that we're preparing for and what the day looks like. But some number of years ago, I always now add, we want to review the wins from yesterday, review the wins from last week, right? Well, what did we do really well? We're in the business, unfortunately, of answering the telephone, which means most of the time when people pick up the phone to call you, they're not happy, right? They're not usually happy when they give us a buzz. So it's very easy to fall into that negative spiral. And you talk a little bit about that. You talk about reviewing something positive every day. Walk me through how you deal with that in your training with your teams.
I think the biggest thing is people aren't happy when they don't know how to do what you ask them to do. When you talk about for the team. So really when someone is having a tough time, it's because they don't know, not because they don't want to do it. They just don't know it well enough to do it. Like I can ask almost anybody to do the form they got coming up with their next testing. They're comfortable. If I ask them to make an outbound call to schedule an upgrade appointment or schedule a revival of somebody who's quit, they can't do that unless I train them. So we spend more time working on a form, which absolutely doesn't matter in our life, than we do working on our skill. Our whole warrior success systems, everything we do is based on improving your skill constantly. Even the martial arts we teach is called Kaizen. We need a constant improvement every day. That's all I'm trying with my staff. If they get a little bit better every day, that's all I need. That's all they need. So when you're trying to get people, I don't go for the whole jump from 0 to 1,000. I'm looking jump from 0 to number 2 and then number 3. If I go small incremental improvement, they'll feel it, and I can reward them for a little tiny improvement constantly. I'm not looking for a big jump before they get a pat on the back.
Well, I mean, we have the same. It's the same thing. I think you'll see the same differential in martial arts schools that have relatively effective like retention rate and high graduation rates to black belt and things like that. You can't expect a white belt to perform like a brown belt. I mean, that's just unrealistic, right? So, if they can, if they could do 100 push-ups, okay, great. But if he could do 99 when he first met me, I didn't make any impact on him, right? I think it's the same deal. Yeah, I think it's exactly right. You tell an interesting story, I think, about Mike Stone in the book about like positive expectation, like expecting. You're the power of expectation. So talk to me about this. Let me give you a frame that I've seen a lot, and I think you may have some really interesting impact here or input here. I've seen a lot of school operators who want to become school operators, and they barely stick their toe in the water, and they start teaching at like a YMCA or a church or something like this. And I think in their mind, that's what they think this thing is going to be forever, right? So walk me through how you think about positive expectations and how that turns into reality.
I think if you surround yourself with people that are having tremendous success in the skill you want, you'll do better. Proximity is so powerful. You can't sit out there by yourself at the Y or sit out there by yourself. Even go to a group of people. I watched a seminar recently online when they had 20 speakers, and every speaker taught something different about how to do the same thing. That I was thinking, how confusing is this for the average operator? Myself, I can throw it all away and pick out one or two things. But I mean, you got to get around people having success in exactly what you want to do, that you jive with, and really get close proximity to people doing what you want. You can't be by yourself and gain the results you want. So I think that proximity will help a lot. Hate to use that word over and over, but it's very important. You've got to be around the people that are having success doing what you want. And you're talking about this presumption of success, and Mike Stone had it the best. And he came and did a seminar for me, and he said, when I bowed in every tournament, when I bowed in my mind, I said, I'm about to kick your ass. And he said, I swear, the guy bowing back said, yes, I believe you are. And that's how he got into the ring. It was kind of like there's two other instructors like that. Bill Wallace, every sparring match, would bow and say, I'm going to kick you in the head. And he believed it, and he kicked everybody in the head. The other one was Hickson Gracie. He knew exactly what was going to happen. 4 years spent going out and training with him at his house up in the hills. And he knew exactly. He said, okay, Bill, this is going to be an arm lock this time. I'm going to count down from 10. There's nothing you can do about it. 10, 9.5. Be careful on that side. I mean, and he already knew, he had so much belief, everything worked for him. I think when you have that kind of belief in business, and that's only possible with repetition. The same belief Mike Stone, Bill Wallace, and Hickson Gracie had about their martial arts, we should have in business. But that comes with thousands of repetitions and role playing, so that when you're sparring with some parent or sparring with a child on setting a high goal, it becomes automatic. And you say, you're about to get in my leadership program, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. 10, 9. I mean, you've got to have that kind of presence like they did. I admired their presence on the floor, and I aspire to have that with my staff in the school. That's what our training is all about, having the presumption that everybody will allow you to influence them in a positive way.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I see that we see the same thing. You know, if my expectation when I got into the business was, well, I'm going to have these 20 students and I'm going to make a little extra money every month, and I'll be able to make the mortgage a little easier or whatever, they end up stuck there. They end up staying there. I haven't seen an awful lot of transitions, to that, because it requires that paradigm shift. It requires the expectation shift. Or if you just open and say, oh, like, I'm going to have 450 students and we're going to do, $90,000 a month, let's go, right? I mean, now the world tends to answer that question, or tends to answer that request.
Almost all of that is mindset. I mean, you really are in control of that. But you've got to have the proper training. You can't just be wishing. You've got to have the proper training. And training, I've been doing the same meeting since 1971. Every Monday, every Wednesday, physical and business. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Somebody said, don't they know it yet? Yes and no. They know it, but you know what? There's always somebody new. There's always somebody challenging what you ask them to do. So you've got to train your people. Somebody said, well, how long do you have to train them? As long as you want them to be successful. That's how long. That's why we do ongoing training for the schools. Constant training, program directors, instructors, and owners, how to be an owner. People don't know how to be an owner. They don't know how to be a program director because nobody really, they train them on here's the expectations, here's the tactics, but then they train them one time and expect them to go do it. You can't train one time. You've got to do it for as long as you want to retain that skill. I mean, think about salespeople. Think about sparring. You don't train 5 years ago and then go into UFC. But we try to do that in business. You can't. You have to have trained the day that you're going to do a presentation. You've got to train the week for the next 50 presentations. You've got to train. In business is more important than on the floor. Although I believe martial arts is first, it's got to coexist with the business, or you won't have students. You won't spread your influence around the world.
Yeah. I think I stole this from Nick Okinos, but even here at AMS, we have a 12-week training cycle. We have 12 core competencies. We have 12 essential elements that are the dictator between success and failure in what we do with the billing business, what we do with the software business, et cetera. So every week, it's one of those 12 topics, and we loop back through every 3 months. And, some of the guys downstairs have been here for 30 years or 25 years or whatever. But as soon as you stop watching that thing, it starts to degrade. So you have to go back and refresh it, right? So I think it's exactly right.
In the school, it's the same thing. If
100%.
I focus on new members, I get new members. If I focus on upgrades, I get that. So there's got to be a constant. We have a rotation that's kind of unique, and we focus on different aspects of our business every month, and every quarter it changes. They also have to learn how to do the same thing differently for them to be excited.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to be excited too, and it's very seldom about doing the exact same thing for the next 100 years. It's like we teach them how to get new students a different way every quarter, how to upgrade people a different way every quarter. So, I mean, they've got to also be excited about learning something, a new way to do what they do well. So you've got to have this constant training like you're talking in your staff. Schools, it's more important because most school owners are not successful financially. Even if they have 100 students, even if they're a world champion themselves, even if they're going to a tournament 3 times a month, it doesn't spell financial success.
Yeah. It's it's a fundamental human behavior component, right? The need for variety, but then you also have a need for consistency. So you've got to kind of figure that out. And it exactly resonates with me, and certainly what we're doing with the teams. That you have to hone the saw, sharpen the saw. But at the same time, if I'm doing the same thing kind of the same way over and over again, well, that tends to trend to atrophy too, right? So one of the things that you've done, I thought that's really interesting on the martial arts side of the fence as well, is I don't know, man. I don't remember how long we've kind of interacted with each other, but I think about every 2 years or so, you've got some new martial arts thing that you're doing with everybody, whether it's Warrior Krav Maga or Kali or whatever. I think all of that lends itself to what you're describing. Would you agree with that?
Kind of. I mean, I studied Taekwondo forever, but I was always, whatever else I was interested in, I found a way to bring it into my school. Because I figure if I like this, if I liked grappling, if I liked knife fighting, if I liked kickboxing, and I've had 19 professional fights, if I like that, somebody else will like it. So I don't want to keep the stuff I like away from my students. And so we have the 5 different skills we teach inside our core program. And I think it works extremely well, but I do try to reinvent myself or I'll get stagnant also. That's the way in every relationship. And my relationship with myself is I better learn something new or I probably won't be excited about my training. I do not sit back and just do a new form or anything like that. I'm trying to learn something brand new all the time so I can bring it to my staff. Either you're their instructor or somebody else will be. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you're in the world that you're in, dealing with lots of instructors and adults, right? That's the world that you built for yourself. They need variety too. They want to be learning new things. If they're a 4th degree black belt or a 5th degree black belt or whatever, hey, this is something totally foreign. Let's get familiar with this. Let's become an even more well-rounded martial artist, right? That's fantastic. That's great.
Well, my belief on this, because you touched on high ranked black belts is, I think that I'm going to talk a little bit about my belief in the color belt system, okay, and the black belt system, just for a segment because you brought it up. I believe the only purpose of all color belt testings, all color belt training, prepare for black belt. That's the only purpose. It's not to go from white belt to orange belt to yellow belt to green belt. All color belts are training to enter black belt training. That's the only purpose. So I have a 1-year rotation that just continues on. Everybody can take it. Everybody gets strong fundamentals. Everybody becomes a badass in the basics. And then I have a 10-year rotation with all new material for black belts. Then I have a 20-year rotation for masters. So, I mean, there's constant learning going on in the warrior system. Without that, I mean, how do you expect people to keep training? There's got to be new challenges, new things to learn. And it's not just a new form or a new weapon. It's not that. You've really got to have if you're a black belt school like everybody claims, you'd have black belts. But I see people all the time advertising for instructors because they don't have any. Because they're not really a black belt school, because they don't have black belt curriculum. Matter of fact, when I pull their schedule up, they might have 1 or 2 black belt classes. If you're a black belt school, you'd have 40% of your schedule would be for black belts, and they'd be full. But you don't have curriculum, and you don't have a schedule that supports it. So, I mean, I'm not saying you. I mean, the average person doesn't have a schedule. So you might as well take that off the wall and put "we're a white belt school" on your wall and make money off that. You can still make money, but if you're a black belt school, you got to have black belts. I'd say you can't be in business 10 years and not have 50 to 100 black belts actively training and paying for the new material they're going to learn on your own 10-year rotation.
As I started working with Harry and Friends, boy, my complete 180, much better than I could deliver just by myself. Much better content.
Well, Harry is a godsend. Harry is like a virtual staff member.
The kids are just more excited. When it's time to do the mat chat, a lot of times it used to be verbal, but now we have the visual.
Right.
And they can relate to this guy.
We have been a long-time Harry and Friends customer with our little ninjas going on, we think, around 10 years now.
How many schools do you guys have that are using Harry and Friends? 5 schools. Excellent. And how do the kids react? How do the parents react?
They love it.
Harry is a big part of our We Warriors program. Kids love him. They will do things that he says that won't do if we tell them to, and they definitely won't do it if their parents tell them to. Makes the parents a little jealous, but they love him too. Check it out, guys. You got to do Harry and Friends.
Okay, everybody. Where is Harry today? It's great. At Martial Arts.
Do you feel like you're getting crushed under the tremendous weight of managing your martial arts school? Crawl out from beneath the burden and reach your potential. Lighten the load and let Atlas Martial Arts Software do the heavy lifting. Visit tryatlassoftware.com to see for yourself and get 7 free gifts valued at over $400.
Stay informed while on the go with daily news in the Martial Arts World News Magazine mobile app for Apple and Android devices. Find us in your app store. And now, back to our show.
Yeah, well, and there are some elements you mentioned earlier. So the paradigm is super critical. I think what you said, what you described is exactly right paradigm. And then you described there's some strategies and tactics that you have to deploy as well. A lot of these lessons are lessons that we should have learned in the 70s, and we should have learned them in the 80s, and we should have learned them in the 90s, and we should have learned them in the 2000s. But even yet today, I see some folks in the industry, even some of my brethren, software people and stuff like this, who are like teaching schools to act like fitness clubs, not like schools, right? And you guys, certainly you guys solved that decades ago, but maybe walk through a couple of you already talked about curriculum, variety of curriculum structure. Maybe talk about a couple of other elements that you think are pretty important to make sure that we're retaining students to black belt and beyond.
I think this is where the business crosses with the martial arts.
Yeah.
So first off, I believe everything starts with the martial arts and the instructor on the floor. We practice teaching all the time. We don't just teach. And by practice, I mean we teach under scrutiny with someone watching the class and grading us. When you teach under scrutiny, then you get better. And the whole purpose is for me to become the best instructor I can be. I believe that the first few business transactions happen because of the instructor. What the instructor recommends with his influence happens in your office or at your front counter, whatever. But if you don't have a situation to where the instructor supports the business side, or if they're two separate. A lot of people think instruction, if I build a better mousetrap, the people will come. That's not necessarily true. If you build a better mousetrap, you just kill the mouse sooner, the one that does come. But if you're going to have a great program, the martial arts has to match curriculum. So if you want to talk about retention, I'll tell you, business ways to have retention. Number one is people have to set a big goal as soon as possible. And we teach that in our training. As soon as possible, have to set a great big goal. Like when you go to college, the people that graduate are the people that have a master's set. If they never declare a major, they drop out.
Yeah.
People without majors drop out. So the first major you set in my school is to become a black belt. Okay. The next thing is your family, if you want retention, has to be involved. And I don't care how you get the family involved, they have to be involved. And the third thing is all the financing should be out of the way. In other words, they should have paid in full. And if you don't believe in paying in full, that's fine. But real retention happens when they don't owe me any money and I can teach them freely. And they've got a long-term goal and the family's involved. If I do those three things and I have a constant learning experience, if I can get my parents to understand the real training begins at black belt, and then they can see what happens. And I'll tell you just like you're one of my parents, sir, when your child completes our program, it takes about 96 months. There's no doubt in my mind that when they go to college, if that's what you want them to do, that they're going to get a scholarship of some type, because the focus we teach during these years is going to dramatically change your child's life. All you got to do is complete the program. And if you go into business for yourself or get a job, you're going to be highly successful. Let's go ahead and set your goal to 4th degree black belt. That will be kind of my presentation. And it's dramatic, the number of people to go, I didn't know there was this much.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to really, if you don't have 96 months of curriculum, how can you put somebody on a 96-month program? You can't. How can you do that? Most people are going year by year or month to month because they don't believe it themselves. I believe that my program dramatically changes lives. And I'm a firm believer in that. And if you do, everybody you should want. What I want for myself, I want for them. I want to be training 96 months from now. I want to be teaching 96 months from now. I want my staff here for 96 months, every student here for 96 months. And I want you and I to have a relationship for 96 months. That's a good length of time.
Yeah.
I can do that, my business changes. But without curriculum, without schedule, without the business matching it, there's very few people who stay. You want retention. Upgrade frequently, upgrade as soon as possible, family involvement, and take care of the financial situation.
Yeah.
Make sense?
100%. I think.
I mean, it's different than most people think, but I really believe that training doesn't end at black belt; it starts.
Yeah.
I mean, and the reason I believe that because I made my black belt in 9 months, 15 days, and I turned out okay. I mean, I wasn't the best, but I turned out okay. It doesn't take 3, 4, 5 years to make a black belt.
I think Chuck was less than a year, right?
Everybody who went to Korea was less than a year, including my instructor, Grandmaster Reed, Grandmaster Chuck Norris. Everybody who went to overseas, deployment was 13 months. When they came back, they were black belt. Because their curriculum was so simple, at black belt, you could start to teach. That's how they spread the art so fast. Yeah. So it happens. That's the way it should happen. Now we've made it longer and longer and longer for business reasons. I just think you got to add value to your program, and they'll stay longer and longer.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all pre-black belt.
Yeah.
Now, I want to get people to black belt as soon as possible.
Yeah. I encounter this argument a lot, and I think you just underscored the right way to think about the world, which is it's not necessarily the critical component here isn't like the four corners of the contract or the automatic billing or any of that. That's not the magic. The magic is the psychological commitment that somebody is making at the initial enrollment stage. The numbers that I like to use is Harvard's dropout rate right now is about 13% in 4 years. So that's what, 6.5, that's 3.25% a year, right? Most martial arts schools can't go from January to February without dropping out double that. Right? And it's not because they're getting their hand held so much at Harvard. It's because their expectation was when they enrolled, they're going to have the certificate on the wall at their medical practice or in their engineering firm or whatever. So we have to create the same thing. We have to create the same level of expectation that no matter what gets in the way, the objective is we're going to have the black belt hanging on the wall or the 4th degree black belt hanging on the wall, whatever it is. Right?
I understand what you said. At Harvard, why do they charge so much? Because it's important. They're not worried about making their program more affordable.
Yeah.
They're worried about making it more valuable.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do in the martial arts. The martial art training we do must become more valuable to the average person we encounter.
Yeah.
We're not trying to make it more affordable. We're not trying to make it cheaper. Harvard's not trying to make it cheaper, and they turn down more people every year than the average school enrolls.
Yeah.
because even though they're the most expensive in the country or one of the most expensive, the value level, the value economics is so high, they have a tremendous number of people want to be there. So quit trying to make your school affordable. Learn how to make it more valuable.
Yeah, 1,000% agree. Yeah, 1,000% agree. 1,000% agree. It's the same thing. Interesting. And you so you describe this as being a black belt school, right? And
yes, sir.
I think there are tenets of that. Oh, by the way, Richard Heckler says this is golden advice. Someone actually asked about that. Let me see if I can get to the chat here quickly again. Yeah, here it is. Romeo Gregory. Not sure who that is. I don't think I met the gentleman.
He's a great guy. I'm familiar with him. A great school operator.
So there's your question. What are the steps you implement to build a black belt academy?
Okay. First off, I have to understand that my main goal is to train black belts. There's 3 products: white belts, black belts, and instructors. That's my 3. It's like a car manufacturer. They have 1 or 2 products. Same thing. I produce a high number of white belts, high quality black belts, and then a number of instructors through my retention program. So you've got to start off with the end in mind. Yep. You've got to say, no, I'm going to teach black belts. That means my curriculum and my schedule must match black belts. When I first opened up in Jacksonville, it was 1971. I probably had 30 black belts come from other places to train with me. Because when I had white belt classes, I had white belt and black belt classes when I opened my school. Because my intention was to replace myself. That meant I had to have black belts. I had people come from all over. Even one of the oldest students still trained with me, joined in 1971, was Ken Durling. He still comes and trains with me. He was a 2nd degree black belt in Tong Sudo, and he traveled all the way from St. Augustine here. I had black belts coming from all over. You know why? I had black belt classes. Yeah. The worst thing is you make black belts and don't have black belt classes. A lot of people, they produce black belts, and there's nothing more famous than people that make black belt and quit. Well, let me tell you this. If you made black belt and quit, you were a black belt. You're not are a black belt. So you've got to have stuff for them to do. So, I mean, he's going to be here in our next training. We're going to talk a lot about this. You've got to have the schedule that matches, curriculum that matches. And if you don't have new things to learn for black belts, I'd say at least 10 years. They've got to be put on this big, they've got to see it. When they come in your school and there are no black belts, you're not a black belt school. So, I mean, this is the opportunity to have the schedule right. The business has to match that too. That's got to be your intention to know. People that complete your program dramatically change their life. And the completion of the program takes 96 months at least. So I hope that answers your question. But when you get here next month, sir, you're going to get all those answers and more.
Yeah. Well, I think really it might be a good endorsement, by the way, for everybody to get the hell out of the training. But the paradigm, I think you said, is exactly what everybody should be focused on, which is first you begin with the end in mind. What is the product I'm trying to output? And that's where you I'm not sure if we had this conversation or not, but when I was running multiple locations, my objective was how do I develop owners, franchisees and instructors, right? Their objective is to develop students, but if I don't have a system in place to do that, I can't tell you how many weeks in a row someone will call here to AMS, one of our clients, and ask, hey, I want to hire outside instructors. How do I do that? And my answer is, well, don't. But you need a system in-house to be able to generate that. I mean, it's crazy, but I think it's well said.
The other thing before that, our qualifications are way too high for who can teach, because we're teaching on general an 8 to 12-year-old white, orange, or yellow belt. How skilled do I have to be?
Yeah.
I have to be a great person with a great personality, and my curriculum has to be easy to teach and easy to learn. I'd like to be able to teach you something today, have you turn around and teach it to the person behind you. It can't be so complicated that it can't be taught. I mean, here's the deal. In Omaha, I tested, I made brown belt in 6 weeks. 6 months later, I was a chief instructor in that school, and I wasn't a black belt yet. And there were already 40 black belts in that school. So Fred Van Ackeren, the guy that had become my instructor there, they had a big sauna bath there. We're sitting in the sauna. He said, Bill, I need you to be the chief instructor. I'm moving to Little Rock to spread our association to Little Rock. And he started Little Rock for the ATA. It wasn't ATA then. And I said, well, what about Pete Shaneda? He was the best guy in our school. Well, he said, no. I asked him. He said, no. So what about all these 3rd degrees? And I asked all of them. He said, Bill, I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel when I'm asking you. And I said, well, then definitely I'll do it. Now all the black belts left, but we don't have all these requirements to teach an 8-year-old. At that time, we were teaching all adults. But even then, first classes I taught were all white, orange, yellow belts. There were not, you don't need all this skill set. You need to be a great personality, be able to deliver the basic technique. I don't have to be a 10th degree black belt to teach. I think we're expecting too much. When I left Omaha on a Sunday morning after getting married on a Saturday night, I got 2 sets of instruction because I was coming to open my school. Grandmaster Lee said, build instructors. We're trying to grow the ATA. Grandmaster Reed said, replace yourself first.
Yeah.
That's how I started my school, trying to build instructors and replace myself. Nothing else, not get white belts, not build a big school. Replace yourself first so you can get free and build instructors. That's got to be that was my mindset when I moved on the first day.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen that fast, but it happened pretty fast.
Well, back to expectations, right?
Yes, sir. So, I mean, I think that you're right. I mean, they should not be hiring from outside unless you're expanding at a rapid rate. The problem is in those days, it was easy. All my students were adults. Then 1975, the whole world changed upside down, and it was more lucrative to teach kids. But truthfully, there's still a tremendous adult population out there that will take it in the form of parents of children if your curriculum allows them to, and more effectively, if your schedule allows them to train with their child.
Yeah.
So it's a unique thing that you'll learn here at our seminar too.
Yeah.
How did my whole school become a family thing?
Yeah, I think it's super important that you don't have to force them there, but it should sure as hell be an option, right? I think you mentioned something also, by the way. If I were to have my druthers, in fact, I think what I'd be more worried about, putting someone on the floor, turning someone into an instructor, would be that I've invested as much or more time in teaching them teaching skills than kicky punchy, here's the 5 moves of the form, right? I mean, certainly you need to know what you're teaching, but the skill of being able to communicate that in an empathetic way and be able to deal with children at different stages of development and be able to, accomplish that teaching pedagogically, right? I think is far more important than how good their particular sidekick looks today, right? I mean, I'd be worried about that more.
In my own situation, because I'm ending here at 77 years. I've been teaching since 1969. I do not want to end my career not teaching martial arts that I feel is effective. So no matter what, I do want the vocabulary on the floor to be correct.
Yeah.
But I want to create people that are emotionally powerful, physically strong, and technically fearless. That means from white belt on, I'm teaching the right shit. But I do have a method of teaching and talking that we call the vocabulary of martial arts that will help you retain students. Because you're already saying something in your class, you might as well say the right thing. And that comes from the 4 teaching quadrants we have. If you use those, you'll become the greatest instructor you've ever been. And if you allow someone to judge you under scrutiny, the problem is we don't role play teaching, but we role play our form, which is silly. Our product is teaching. You must role play teaching. Our product is influencing people to set high goals. You must role play that. Our product is answering the phone. You must role play that. Our product is talking to parents. You must role play that. And if you're going to spar, you damn sure better role play that. So it's all connected. Without practice, you're never going to get there. You won't get there.
Yeah, 100% right. I remember an instructor certification event a long time ago, and one of this instructors who wanted to be an instructor, and he was leading the classroom, and I don't know, he did knife hand strikes or something like that, and not once did he turn around and look at the back of the classroom. I mean, not once did he watch what he was actually trying to accomplish, and thought that he was doing well because he was using the right, I don't know, way to chamber your elbow or something like that. And one of your guys asked him, said, well, wait a minute, did he do it right over there? Well, how the hell would you know?
Right.
Because he never practiced that. He practiced like the technique. He never practiced, oh my gosh, I need to be looking around. I need to be observing what's going on here, right? It's kind of insane. And
I attracted a new instructor from Brazil recently, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy, but I'm teaching him how to teach our traditional program. And when I put him in front, he did the same thing. He's a dynamic, energetic leader of the class, like a drill sergeant. And 2 people had doing it wrong. I said, you can't tell. You're not looking at them. You must see everything that goes on in your building. You've got to be scanning. You've got to have your head on a swivel so you know if a parent walks in, if a parent's frowning, if a kid got hurt, if someone's got the wrong foot forward. You've got to see everything. And as soon as he turned around, he said, I understand now.
Yeah.
Well, he said it in Portuguese, so I had no idea what he said. But the truth of the matter is people don't know what they don't know. And no one's training people to teach. That's what we do here.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like the skill of being a great teacher is far more complex than being a great kicker or puncher. But man, if you can get the two things to work together, you've got some magic there. Yeah, I love it.
That's right.
So you guys, you have this Warrior Business Training event coming up November 14th through the 16th. Talk to me a little bit about that. You already mentioned that these are some of the areas that you'll be reviewing. Talk to me about logistics and where people should go to, get information about that and what they should expect.
Well, I'm hoping Ms. Harrison sends you the link so people can see it, or they can call my school at 904-724-2100. If you don't have the link, I'll have her send it to you. We're almost full. We're only accepting 40 schools this time. We have a 3-year program that will take people from wherever they are and add $100,000 a year and work less hours and teach a lot better martial art. I mean, we're going to make people's lives easier, and there's so many great consultants out there right now. Ours is just focused on training owners to be owners, training program directors to help everybody succeed, and training instructors to have great retention. We have the schedule, we have the curriculum, and we have the master's training so you can retain your staff. I want to jump in here. Most master's training is a reward when you've done something. Ours is a beginning of who you're going to be as a great instructor, a great master instructor. So it's all different, but they'll see all that. Logistically, it's in Jacksonville, Florida. There will be a training every month for those 40 people, online and in person, whatever they want. But this first one is to launch. We're trying to accept people that are, like we talked earlier, trainable, teachable, and really want to excel at a fast pace.
Master Clark, would you mind, Antonetti Chavez says he's interested. What's that phone number again?
My office number is 904-724-2100.
724-2100.
Yeah. I can give you a direct line here. Give me a second. I'll give you a direct line to call my general manager. This is a little different number. 916-612-2420.
Okay, got it. That's now in the chat area, guys. So if you want to take a look at that, you can get the contact information over there. I'll put a link in the chat as well to the website. Wasn't able to find it with a quick Google, but I'll make sure everybody has that at their disposal.
If you call that number, you get all the information you need. I can't really read their questions or anything important there. I don't want to leave people with doubt in their mind about something I said. I'm not trying to create doubt. I want to make a difference by us having this conversation. I'd like everybody to buy the book so they know what I'm talking about. But mainly, I'd like to make a difference in their school and in their training.
Yeah, I think we accomplished most. Richard Hackworth had nice things to say. He said it was golden advice. Antonetti said he'd really like to go check out the seminar. It looks to me like a couple of positive, kind of positive feedback about how important it was and what they found useful in sort of the attitude paradigm. I've got the link to the book also, the Amazon link in the chat as well. So everybody take a look at that. You can go get a copy of that. I really like, here's mine. So I had, this is how I tend to like, to do books anyway. I've got I don't know. I'm not sure if there are many pages I don't have highlighted, but this is going to the staff here today and to the schools in the next few weeks. So I think it's fantastic. Really good summary.
And to work on their attitude or their staff's attitude in the back. If you want to jump to the back, it'll have you write down what your action plan is in order to develop a great attitude in case you don't have one, or if somebody on your staff doesn't have one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think you're chipping into some of the underlying causes here too, right? So if I have one of these patterns of behavior, for me, here was my version of this, right? For me, I read Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, and for me, what that was it was a mirror in front of me, and I found all of these negative behaviors and habits that I'd had from some parental influence and some other influence. I said, holy crap! Like you said before, if you don't know, you don't know. Right.
That's the problem.
And so that kind of journey of self-discovery was like super critical. And I think you're accomplishing this here too. I think it's the same message. I think it's the look at yourself carefully. Right.
Yes.
Antonetti, did you get that? Here's the cover of the book. Attitude the Warrior Way. The link to Amazon is in the chat area as well. So you can take a look at that. And certainly for the event, November 14th through the 16th, we'll make sure that the link is there as well. Or you can call either of those two phone numbers.
Perfect.
Master Clark, thank you again so much. Anything else you'd like to leave us with for the day?
Say, build your principles, then your principles will build you. I want to just quickly, my first principle is I'm going to be happy no matter what happens. Make sense? I'm going to be free financially and health-wise. I'm going to be free to move and talk. Okay? If you do those two, if you have freedom. Number 3, I'm going to be young forever. I'm not going to be this young again. I got to recognize that. I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay young. Number 4, I'm going to help somebody every day without consequence or remuneration or history. Number 5, I'm going to be willing to fall in love with everything I do and the people I meet. If you build your own 5 principles, they'll make you. All decisions I make are based on these 5 principles, but you got to have your own. But attitude's 1.
I love it.
Number 1, the 1 chapter is be happy. If you just take that one and then build your own 5, you'll do great. I hope everybody's successful.
Well, God, and I think the underline here is choosing to be happy. You are in control. You choose what your attitude is. Absolutely, everybody's influenced by outside influences, but how you let that impact you is up to you, right?
Yes,
I love it, Master Clark. I got to get up there. I was actually just up in Jacksonville last week. I should have dropped by. Should have said hello.
Next time, okay?
Get a round of golf in. All right, guys. Grandmaster Clark, thank you again so much for your time. Antoinette, Christina, everybody else in the chat, Richard, thank you guys so much for dropping by. I really appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat area, and I'll make sure Grandmaster Clark gets them, or we can address them in some other way, and we'll make sure that we have all the relevant links for everybody in that area as well. Thanks again so much, everybody. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
This has been a Martial Arts Industry Innovations production, presented by Martial Arts World News Magazine.